completely. And it went from being a rundown, fairly ugly, forgotten city, and part of that was the fact that it housed the state hospital. So it always carried the burden. I shouldn't say the burden. It had the state farm there, and it became the central place for the state where seriously ill psychiatric people ended up. And so Main Street of Waterbury through the 80s, there were a number of boarding houses, and it really wasn't doing that well financially. But since then, and it really was spurred on by a couple of things. One was Ben & Jerry's came in, and the town offered a bunch of incentives and whatnot. And Ben & Jerry's is the #1 tourist attraction in Vermont. So Vermont and New Hampshire, we love the tourist dollar, right? I mean, that's what our whole state economy is based on. So Waterbury had a renaissance based on Ben & Jerry's, so ice cream, and then Green Mountain Coffee Roasters. And then one restaurant came in, which was Prohibition Pig. There was also a microbrewery. And so now, between microbreweries and a younger crowd doing outdoor activities, mountain biking, disc golf, etc., it's had a real business renaissance. And I feel like for Hill, that essentially the soul of this town was stolen by the dam, and it's over. You get to see it, they open it for a weekend. But Franklin, Bristol, you have commerce, you have restaurants, you have people walking the streets, talking to each other, you have people spending money, people making money. We don't have that here. So I would like to see a lot of creativity going into trying to make Hill an attraction for people to come and want to visit and spend time. And I think there are ways to do that, and hopefully we can get into that some tonight. Anyways, I'm glad you're all here. Thank you all for coming. It's nice to see you.
I'm Mary Ann Moses, and most of you may know the name Moses here in town. It's been in this town for many, many years. And I married my high school sweetheart, Michael. And we have lived in the town of Hill for over 35 years. We married at a young age, and we had our first son. And while I was pregnant with my second son, Michael's father was passing with cancer in his own home here up on Boot Chuck. And Michael sat by his father's side while he took his last breath. We eventually bought the home from Mike's stepmom, Sharon, and we moved into that home where we lived for 25 years. So Michael grew up in that home, and he's been there probably 45 years, I'd say. So we established a good relationship young, brought our children up here in town. We've bought property here in town, and we've actually established our own business together. We own Moses Auto Body in Franklin, and we've been established there for over 12 years now. And we love this little community. We won't move from it. Michael won't move from it. He was born here, raised here, and we're going to stay here forever. We'd love to see this community grow. But besides that, I just want to say to you all that, you may not have seen me a lot in town, you may not have seen me a lot in other town meetings. Been busy. I think life gets ahead of us. And, Mike and I we've got 3 grandchildren. We are excited to have those grandchildren in our life. And I feel as though at this time in my life, I'm 53, that I can dabble into the municipal grounds that I basically started at a very young age. I was probably 20 years old at the time, and I applied at the Department of Revenue, and I stayed there for 11 years. And in my 11th year, I was in the position of the municipal group. Is this shut off? You all can hear me okay? Okay. And it was getting a little political because the Department of Revenue was trying to reorganize their positions for the people in the department. And a group of us had worked with the towns And we were trying to, distinguish our roles for the towns. So in doing that, there were, I would probably visit over a course of a week, 20 towns. And I would pop in and I would do monitoring. I would do samplings of their files. I would oversee the procedures that were laid out by the government. And then I would report on it. I had great relationships with the towns that I worked in. They loved to see me come through the door because I wasn't there to make it hard for them. I was there to make it easier for them. So if there was a town that was out there that had a current use issue, and the current use is a wonderful thing, but yet it's also a bad thing, okay? Because it preserves your land, and you have a tax break from that. So if you get away from that over time in a rural community, you're losing a lot of tax dollars because you're not staying on top of it as development occurs in a town. That's one thing. We also looked at veteran exemptions. We looked at elderly exemptions, or I should say veteran credits. Make sure that our citizens and our veterans were getting their proper credits for what they've served for the country. And it's just a protocol that any governmental department would want to see. So in my 11th year, it was just getting too political, and a group of us that worked for the department decided that we were going to branch out on our own. So we formed our own firm, and it was an appraisal firm, and it was called Earls, Nieder & Perkins. Some of you are familiar with the name Cindy Byers, Rick Byers. So Cindy and I and two other people, we formed a company. I worked for over 50 towns in New Hampshire. I formed reevaluations, statistical updates, and anything that had to do with the fundamentals of the process of municipalities, I was involved. I've defended municipalities in court. I've stood up for them in BTLA, Board of Tax and Land Appeals. And over the course of my 17 years doing that, one town really resonates with me. And if you all can remember, in 2005, the little town of Alstead. That little town reminds me a lot of Hill. And on October 8th of 2005, there was a horrendous flood that wiped out a good third of the town. People's homes were lost, people's lives were lost. I had just turned over the town evaluation for that town the day before, and devastation hit. I was then called in to assist the town with FEMA to go and get my feet on the ground and reassess the homes that were no longer there. And it was heartbreaking because there were so many people in devastation. And until this day, the town of Alstead will probably never see what it was back then. So it just gives you an idea of what I've done over the years. And for the town of Hill, I find myself wanting to be involved at this time in my life so that we can make the town work better as a community, one, follow the rule of law, two, and use our tax dollars where they should be met most. And it should be that way in any town. There's always going to be politicals, there's always going to be hiccups in the road. Those are the times where people need to stand up and give their opinion, give their thoughts, so that we have the best outcome for the community. And that's why I want to run for selectman. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, hello. I'm Alexa White. I am running for school board. I've not had to ever do any public speaking in my life, so I wrote everything down in case I forgot what I wanted to say. When I sat down to think about what qualifies me for this position, I had a hard time. I've never sat on a board, and I have a lot to learn. I sent a text to my best friend of 40 years and asked her to please remind me why I'm running for this position. She responded, "Lexi, If there's a person out there who put more thought and consideration into becoming a parent, I haven't met them. They need you in this position because you consider others' feelings and thoughts and factor them into solutions so naturally. This was a really amazing compliment to me because it showcases two personal traits that I work really hard to assert. One, I don't make hasty decisions. I consider every angle, pro, con, and everything in between. And two, my desire to make people feel seen and heard. I have compassion for people and have the time and dedication to this position. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and when I commit to something, I put my whole heart and soul into it. I think having the ability to listen open-mindedly and play devil's advocate will be valuable to the board when we are brainstorming to improve current policies, coming up with solutions to problems, and making the best use of our resources. That being said, my biggest qualification for this position is being a parent of 2 current JDB students. I'm invested in keeping them and their peers safe and providing them with the best possible education. I want you to know that I care about all of the kids in this community as much as I do my own 2 boys. If there is anything that I feel strongly about, it's that investing our love, time, and attention on the upcoming generation will pay dividends. Let's remember, they are the ones who will be choosing our nursing homes. Let's raise them well. Anyway, I'm happy to be here and would be honored to serve this community in such a meaningful way.